thought I was ready. Just buried my statement. Meeting of the Somerville Planning Board for July 10th, 2024 will please come to order. Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act has been provided. Copy of a notice specifying the date, time, and location was one posted on a bulletin board outside Borough Hall, two mailed, faxed, or emailed to the Courier News, and three given to the Clerk Administrator. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and the decorum appropriate to a judicial proceeding must be maintained at all times. Okay, roll call.
Chairman Novato,
Here.
Ms. Rosinski, Mayor Gallagher.
Here.
Councilman Vroom,
Here.
Ms. Adair,
Here.
Ms. Warner,
Here.
Mr. Kraska,
Here.
Mr. Carestis, Mr. Cleveland,
Here.
Mr. Addicks,
Here.
Mr. Aiken.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we have the minutes for June 26th.
So moved?
Second?
Any additions or corrections? Okay.
Chairman Novato,
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher,
Yes.
Councilman Vroom,
Abstain?
Ms. Adair,
Abstain.
Ms. Warner,
Abstain.
Mr. Kraska,
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland,
Yes.
Mr. Addicks.
Yes.
Okay, next up, we have a resolution for 24 Division Street.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions?
Yeah, what did they change that delayed it so much?
I don't know.
Yeah, there wasn't really a change. I had offered, because they wanted to get it done very quickly, to have them draft it and me take a look at it and make
Yeah.
changes and go to our professionals, get comments, additions. They didn't get it done as quickly as they originally
Oh,
thought.
okay.
So then we went and we looked at it, there were a couple changes here and there just to make it come forward, but I had sent them over my standard, resolution and they put it together. So
Oh.
that was really the only.
That's their issue, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Vroom,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes, but on page 3 of the resolution, it says number 5, it says the review letter from Cole dated October 4th, 2024. October's not here yet.
It should be probably 2023.
23.
It'd be 2023.
Okay.
Good catch.
Yes.
Ms. Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland,
Yes,
Mr. Addicks.
Yes.
Okay, with that change. Okay, and the next thing we have to do is talk about fencing on corner lots. And I have been discussing this with the mayor for a while. Since we both live on corner lots, and our lots are distinctly different, my approach to this is I would like to have a more simple set of rules that's easier to interpret, but also easier to modify in a situation where it needs to be modified. So,
I agree. I mean, everything we have is great for one property, but it helps this property, but hinders this one because everyone's different, so
well, I think
I don't think there's.
on Mike's first page,
Would it make sense to have Mike just kind of outline the 4 approaches first?
sure.
So it's just for the public's sake, that, they understand what we're kind kind of discussing.
Yeah. And I wanna make sure we also don't talk about any particular property. I mean, we can talk about corner lots, but,
Yes.
you know, other than that, this is just a very general conversation.
The first thing I did, is I said that this is applicable for on corner lots, the side. that the
Your microphone,
house-
Mike?
I'm sorry. This is applicable to the sides of the property that the property's not facing, not the mailing address. The mailing address is the front. That has to comply with everyone else's front yard setback requirements for fencing. This is the side that the house doesn't fence, okay? It's number one. So I listened to what the board had to say in the last meeting, and I came up, we have 4 options here, and just for concept. One is, the chairman's idea is just reduce, saying you don't have to comply for 30%, 20% of the 4-foot setback on that side we just talked about in the front yard, but have a setback, because I've heard from numerous people that no one wants a fence up against the sidewalk 2 feet off. It doesn't feel comfortable walking a dog, walking your kids, and so forth. So if you see an option 1, it's just a 3-foot setback from the sidewalk or the property line to give that space. So I just threw up a foot to allow a foot higher and 30%, but that's just all concepts. The option 2 is to graduate the fence, allowing a taller fence the further back from that property line you go. So you're not gonna be 3 feet, you might be 10 feet away, and allowing more solid fence and a higher fence as you graduate back. The third option is, right now, you can't put a solid fence at all. So a combination fences allow a solid fence for the lower 2 or 3 feet, and like a lattice or something. So allow a mixed fence and some solid in the front yard setback, so you do have some solid there. Not 4 or 5 feet of solid, but some solid. And then the fourth is really the mayor's idea, is to make it a conditional use, and then we could have a committee set up to review these, and then the committee would make a recommendation to the planning board if the planning board felt, or the committee felt it complied and it was reasonable. And I said both, the zoning officer could do that, or the board, to the planning board. If it's gonna be aesthetics or something subjective, I don't think the zoning officer should get involved in that, because it's nothing but a nightmare. It should be if a committee reviewing it, if it's anything subjective like aesthetics, if it matches this character, or something where I think a committee should look at it, similar to what the ARB does. And then this is going back when the board used to look at the wall signs in the SID, and for cafes, it used to be that the ARB made recommendations, the planning board review it. That's changed 2 or 3 years ago, but this is going back to that same model, that a committee would review whatever they're proposing on the corner lots, and if the committee felt it complied with whatever those standards were, it would make a recommendation to the planning board for review and approval. If the committee felt it did not comply, then it would be kicked to the zoning board, because it's a conditional use and would not comply with the conditional use, and that's a zoning board action.
And the only thing I would say on that is, we'd have to make sure the conditions are very precise, because if
Yeah.
someone other than a board's gonna be reviewing them to make that determination, compliance or non-compliance, we don't want anything subjective. So we'd have to just pick and choose. Then, of course, whichever board reviewed it could discuss other issues, but for that initial review to determine compliance or not, you know, is it less than
Yeah.
6 feet? Is it half solid, half not, you know, whatever it is, just definitely not subjective.
Related to number 4 here, do we have any idea or anticipation what the volume per month or year that would be coming through that board or that committee?
I don't think it's a lot. I can tell you from the zoning board perspective, the zoning board's only reviewed maybe 3 in 20 years. They just don't come in front of the board. They did come 2 years ago.
Because it's expensive to go.
It's expensive, but the 2 years ago one came up, and nearby property owners had strong objections to having a 6-foot fence right on the sidewalk. The same things that I think we could all relate to, and the application was withdrew. So I haven't seen a lot of fence applications from the zoning board, maybe 3 in 19 years. There are corner lots, fence permits are issued, I would say monthly. But the question is, and this goes back, and the board could not like any of these ideas, but there's not one size fits all. Every corner lot is different. So we come up with anything, it's not gonna help every situation. And that's why I'm leaning towards the conditional use, which not the zoning officer, back to a committee to make a recommendation, because that committee can factor in and you're dealing with many people, but it's not clean. You have to be,
Yeah.
a lot of teeth put in that to make it clear what it is, because
If we were gonna make that recommendation, first of all, I would increase the height of the fence. I like, in your first page, I like the 25, changing the 50-foot setback.
Right.
25 feet. I don't think we need 50 feet. And I would increase the height of the fence to 48 inches. Because then you're gonna eliminate a lot of conditional use applications. So you can go 48 inches up to 25 feet from a front yard property line, which gives adequate sight distance for people coming up on the corner, and is going to eliminate the conditional use applications. If you want to have an 8-foot fence within that 25 feet, that would be the conditional use.
Is there a cost if they were to go to the for an ARB review?
You're bringing
have
up a
to-
great point, because right now, people who live on a corner lot are penalized for living on a corner lot.
Correct.
When they want to put a fence in. So if somebody goes to put in a fence, what is it, $25 zoning?
Yes,
Review?
correct.
That should be the maximum that anybody on a corner
Yeah.
lot should pay for a review of a fence.
I don't want to increase cost for them. I just want to keep
Right.
it
Exactly.
maintaining, and then it's just an extra step. That's all.
Yep.
Okay.
Applicants don't pay to go to the ARB, do they? No, I didn't think so.
No.
No, you do the zoning board application, zoning officer, and the chairman can chime in, because he's part of the ARB reviews. I don't think there's an additional fee. Is there, Jenna?
There used
Oh,
to
there
be.
is.
Oh,
There used to
Okay.
be.
Jenna's shaking her head, yes.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there shouldn't be. It should be equal. The property owner should pay equal
Mm-hmm.
amount.
I mean, I guess inside the SID is one thing, but for residents,
Yeah.
I don't think there should be anything.
Yep.
Agreed.
So my problem is that extra layer of bureaucracy in order to get something done. So by increasing the height of the fence and decreasing the setback, I think we're gonna eliminate a lot of the applications that are gonna need to go to whatever committee is set up to review it.
The challenge behind that is almost every corner lot is different. And whether it's in the R1, R2, they're very different. And we can use ours as example. I already have a fence in that's been there for 25 years, so I'm not looking to get a fence.
Yeah, but yours isn't
So-
8 feet tall.
No,
And not on the corner.
Well,
no, but here's the problem. You have people putting in fences for different reasons. Some put them in for aesthetics, some put them in for privacy. If, under this scenario at 4 feet, you still don't have any privacy. So it becomes a problem, and it becomes a problem because my lot is a 50 by 150. Well, my house sits along, the address side is along the 150 side. I have a backyard that's probably 36 inches to my neighbor's property line. So you've got a dichotomy because you have a different size lot.
Right.
And your lot is proportioned differently. This is the problem, that almost every corner lot is proportioned a little bit differently. And these one-size-fits-all are creating havoc for the resident.
Can't we do both, though? Can't we?
Yes, and I think we can create a logical standard
Yeah.
in the zoning, but then allow for,
You know, what Bernie's saying, but then also you still have another option if you're outside of that still.
yeah.
Still go to the ARB.
Right. And if you want,
That's what the setback.
if it becomes a non-conforming use because you want a taller fence
Yeah.
for privacy within the area that you're not allowed to have that tall fence,
This,
then you go to the committee.
Yeah,
it's a pain in the ass to calculate sometimes, but.
And if you wanna put up a 4-foot fence, a 4-foot picket fence within 25 feet of your front yard line, you should be able to do that without having to jump through hoops. And
Is this still keeping the triangle for the line of sight? Are we
We addressed
changing that?
too.
It's,
Yeah.
if you look at the last page, it's not a site triangle because it's much longer for a site. I call it a site safety. I want to clarify in the ordinance that it's not a site triangle. And that 30-inch comes from the ASHTO standard, which is you can see over it in the car. And what the chairman is saying is, well, if it's not a site triangle, can we make it higher, is what he's basically saying.
As long as it's outside of it, yeah, I don't want to obstruct. I
It's
don't, I don't want somebody to be able to put a 4-foot fence in that's in an obstruct view pulling up to a corner either.
Right, if you have a stop sign, the site triangle is gonna be at the stop bar. Okay, that's where the site triangles are, or for signalized wherever you stop, that's the site triangle.
That's what I'm saying. So in this, are we changing that says you could put a 4-foot into that area?
no,
Okay, that's, I just wanted to,
no, it's 25 feet. If you're driving a vehicle, almost any vehicle will, within 25 feet, hit the site triangle that you need. We-
Yeah, we can say some language to help the chairman saying, you gotta be under 30 inches at the stop bar on your property. Something
So you're
that-
looking to marry the two. You're looking
Yeah.
to set a standard that can go through,
easy for some.
yeah.
Right.
And then for those anomaly properties, corner properties, they have an avenue that doesn't cost them anything.
Right.
It may delay them,
A week or two.
well, maybe a month,
yeah.
Yeah,
because it's, they've got to go through
Right, if you
a review
wanted
committee
to
and then
put
this
up,
body.
if you wanted to put up an 8-foot fence, under the existing zoning, you would not be allowed to do it.
Right. Yeah.
If I wanted to put up an 8-foot fence under the existing zoning, I couldn't do it.
Right.
Along the sidewalk.
Right.
Even though I would, if I put it from the back of my house to my driveway, it wouldn't obstruct anything,
Correct.
but I couldn't do it.
Right.
And you would have to go through the zoning and everything. I like the dual thing where we, I have no problem with the 4-foot and changing it and then giving them the avenue of a committee to go
Yeah.
for anything else. And if the committee doesn't think it's appropriate, then it gets
Yeah.
kicked back and then they have to go through.
And then the issue becomes, who makes up the committee?
that was gonna be my question.
I think we can figure that out. Let's have a look at something, let Mike craft something, and then we can figure out where that is made up from.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, the board's lean towards the conditional use. The conditions being X, Y, and Z. If the board wants to have input on this, it has to be a conditional use, otherwise it's not here.
Yep.
Yeah, it has to be. It's the only way I can get the
Yep.
single families in front of this board.
Yep.
So I have to stop right here. This is the first time I've done planning here on this board for like 4 or 5 years. It feels great to have these discussions about being clever or coming up with solutions for everyone. But we go back to a conditional use, and then I'm much more comfortable having more subjective ideas if a committee and the board is looking at it, as opposed to an individual who's gonna get into a shouting match with the owner of what that exactly means.
Well, it can become too subjective with one person, I think.
Right.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. I think, it could be the ARB.
Right.
It's an existing body already that's comprised from this board.
We would have to specify that in an ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So the only thought process I have with the ARB is the ARB, doesn't that have DSA members? And do they really have a concept and an understanding for residential?
And what's their purpose? How were they created? Did they have a
Yeah,
specific
it
set
is-
purpose?
Well, although under other applications, we've sent folks to the ARB outside of the
Yeah,
DSA.
Yes.
But
Yeah, the
There is a
planning
site
board
plan
has.
waiver committee, but this isn't a site plan.
Yeah.
The idea is a certain body.
It could be.
could be
and
this-
The advantage to having the ARB do it, is that there is somebody from the Board of Adjustment, somebody from the Planning Board, and somebody from the DSA. Now, the DSA doesn't necessarily apply to residential properties.
Right.
However, it's a variety of perspectives.
Unless the DSA representative is also one of the residential representatives.
That's what I was
Off
thinking.
of the board.
Pulling somebody, like, it's almost like an alternative for it's the ARB, but it's, I don't know, ARB version 2? Where it's more geared towards the perspective of a residential
Yes.
versus of a business.
Yeah, I think, and I agree with Brian, we can define this better at the next meeting, but I think we need to better define who's gonna make up this committee.
Well, maybe that brings us back to making sure that the ARB kind of goes back to what
It
it was.
it could
too.
be. You know, but,
Well, either it's the ARB or we have to make up a committee. What's in the pocket right now, Site Plan Waiver Committee or the ARB? That's the only two committees.
I don't think any of us are opposed to keeping with a committee that already exists. I think it's just
Yeah,
tweaking
tweaking.
that one piece of it.
Right.
Yep,
Why make another committee that,
Right.
yeah, yep.
well, the way it currently stands, the DSA representative is Rick St. Pierre, who is a resident.
So he would act as the resident in
Yeah.
that avenue.
So, under the current makeup of the ARB, everybody would qualify.
Everybody's a residential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody on the ARB is a resident. So, just in different places
Yeah.
in the town.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want.
yeah.
Yeah. I have no issue, let's get that drafted.
Yeah, yep, I agree.
It could work.
Yeah.
So come up with some tiers on the conditional use. This is acceptable. If it's not this, then these are the standards that the committee's gonna look, and the committee likes that or agrees with it,
Yeah.
makes a recommendation, the planning board would then look at it.
What-
You have two
yeah,
tiers with
one of the-
conditional use.
One of the things I would suggest, Mike, is actually going out and, when you do this, eyeballing a couple of corner pieces of property, those oddball pieces, just so you can, it's not just textbook, it's also practical. And take a look at it and say, how would this work?
Yeah, if the board is okay, we'd like to get Kara involved to make sure you're good with it in terms of
Oh,
the
yeah, I can
language.
definitely look at it, absolutely.
So, my understanding is the planning board doesn't have jurisdiction over residential properties.
Well, it does on conditional uses. That's the cleverness here. is,
Okay,
And that's why this is a little unorthodox. We can make it work. The conditional use clearly is the planning board.
Yeah.
If it doesn't comply, it goes to the Board of Adjustment. And that's how, if the planning board would like that, do this, they can do that with the conditional use, as long as the committee and the board, when they review it, feels that it complies. Then the board would have jurisdiction, even though, Mr. Chairman, that it's a single family or a two-family.
yeah, and that's my goal, is to make it a little simpler.
Easy and cheap.
It wouldn't be any of my time or Kara's time. It would go to it would be the same way it was when the planning board used to approve the signs the ARB reviewed. It would be going back to that model again, that worked for how many
Right.
years? A lot of years.
A lot of years.
And the trick would be coming up with language that everybody likes on the kick. Okay, if this is done, the zoning officer can approve it. No, nothing.
Right.
If you don't meet this, then these are the standards and the committee.
There's a
has-
path.
Right, a path,
There's a path that doesn't penalize.
right. Under the same, as Lisa brought up, under the same $25.
Yes.
Yes.
So you come in for a zoning permit, if you,
Well, that's one of the keys, is that a trip to the zoning board costs a lot of money.
right. So for $25, you're coming for a zoning, if it didn't meet, let's say, A under conditional use, then you go to B.
Right.
For the same $25.
Yep.
And that committee would review B for those standards, and if the committee felt those standards were met, would make a recommendation to the planning board for review and stamp, and
Yeah,
that wouldn't
and
be
I-
anybody's touch on that,
I think-
except the $25.
We need language in there that specifies that the fees aren't gonna increase.
Right.
Because it's very easy for somebody to increase the fees without anybody's approval, really. I mean, the borough council has to do it, but, you know, it happens easily.
Yeah, same fee structure. That's, you just referenced the same zoning permit fee structure. That's
Right.
it.
Can the applicant
I do, I just want
make a hand drawing of what they're looking at? They don't have to have an engineer.
No.
They can
Yeah.
just take a ruler and make it look neat and say, this is what it's gonna kinda look like.
Yes.
Yeah, I would
That'd be okay.
prefer something other than a freehand sketch, but,
Well,
photo of the
I mean,
property.
within reason.
Yeah, it's- you
Reason,
know-
but they don't have to get, they don't have to get blueprint.
Nothing
they don't-
professional, I think
nothing
is where
professional.
Larry is going. I don't think we
So-
need anything professional.
So here, and here's what we should do as a borough, is, and we have Navleen, we should create a short sheet application form that details what's acceptable. Give us a photo of the property, give us a cut sheet of the fencing that you want to do. Give us a draw, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's customer service. We're here to serve them. They're not here to, you know, this is, it's customer service.
Oh, I agree, I just wanted to make sure. that
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We need
Engineering.
to let folks know that, you know, they don't have to get an engineer, they don't have to create architectural renderings.
It's gotta be neat.
Right, the devil's in the
Exactly.
And I feel like most fencing companies will probably do that for them
Yes.
with the proposal.
Yep.
They'll give you the sketches and everything else, so.
So I'm sorry, Mike and I were talking about something else that I want to bring up, but where did we land on that? Yes, a sketch, no, a sketch, can they do it themselves?
Absolutely. Yeah.
No professionals needed.
Right
No
now, that's
professional drawings
Yeah.
needed,
Right, it's
but.
not needed right now.
And we can create something out of the office that says, here's what we'd like to see as a part of this submission.
We just have to be able to understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
absolutely,
Yeah,
pictures,
that's-
whatever the case may be.
send
I
us,
think-
send us a photo of the fence you wanna
Yeah.
put up.
Exactly, exactly.
And, you know, that's easy to get now with the internet, and people are buying stuff like that on the internet.
Right.
And when you get a quote from a fencing company.
Yeah, they
they'll
send it to you.
Yeah,
They'll
it's
give you
easy-
all that as well.
Easy enough to get. Include a picture of the property, where, and where you wanna put the fence.
Google Maps.
Yeah.
Something else, not that I want to get too in the weeds on this, because I really don't think it's going to end up being an issue, especially if we keep the ARB as the controlling reviewer. But I think we have to include an appeal mechanism, just in case. So if the property owner, so the ARB says you don't comply, property owner says, yes, we do, we should be going to the planning board, who's the appeal mechanism? Do we treat it as an appeal of a zoning
Well,
officer's determination to the
my-
zoning board? What do we do?
My thinking would be the ARB would make the recommendation to the planning board. The planning board would give the blessing or not, ultimately. And then the appeal body could be the council.
If somebody wants to appeal something we do now, it goes to council, right?
Yes.
Well, the problem is the conditional use. If, let's say the committee said, I don't think this complies with the standards.
Which means it wouldn't go to the planning board, they
Well,
would be directing them to the
it's the
zoning
committee's
board.
making a recommendation, the ARB, right? So
Could
they
the zoning-
say,
Could the
I don't.
zoning board be the appeal body?
Well, normally it is, but what I'm saying is if they're appealing the ARB, the appeal would be to the planning board saying it complies. They would argue that it does comply, and the planning board would make a decision. The planning board says it complies, then it conforms the
Yeah,
condition.
because the ARB is only a recommending
just a
board,
recommending.
committee, it's not
So
the
the
formal.
appeal for the
All right,
board, the
gotcha.
ARB, would be to the planning board. If
Yeah.
the planning board said, this doesn't comply, then they have to go to the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so you would
Okay.
have, you would have one appeal to this
That makes
body
sense.
to see if this body feels it complies with the conditions of the offense.
And if this board agrees with the ARB that it doesn't comply, their zoning board, if they don't agree, they evaluate the conditions, same $25,
Yep.
make the approval, over and done.
Yep.
Then you're appealed to the zoning board, but the planning board tried to make it work.
Yeah.
The whole body did.
Yeah.
ARB tried to make it work.
And then the same $25 is the zoning board review.
We'd have to change the fee schedule for that because the
think you'd
appeal
have
would be higher.
Yeah.
Right now, the appeal, I think, is a $500 application
Yeah,
fee.
no, that's-
I know, we have to change that. If
Yep.
you want to make $25 to go for the appeal, would have to change the fee schedule for that.
Okay. Yeah,
which
which I'm fine with.
we should take a look at anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
I like
That's
it.
great. Good discussion.
Don't drink that.
All right. I have no further comments. At this point, I'll open the meeting up to the public. Seeing no public, other than Colin, we'll close the public session, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?